so we should have some views. All right, we are live. Welcome to Radio Oz, ladies and gentlemen. It's your Tuesday evening metal host, Metal Mike. Tonight we have John Warren, or Johnny D, from the Moonshine Zombies. We'll also discuss his history back from hair metal days to the 90s scene to where he disappeared from everybody's life for 20 years and all of a sudden show back up. So hey, John, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on tonight, my man. We've known each other for a long time.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, let's introduce yourself a little bit. Tell the people who you are, where you are, who you sing with, and a little bit about your history, if you don't mind, sir.
John Warren. I'm the lead vocalist of Moonshine Zombies, nicknamed Johnny D. I got that a few years back. But anyway, I've been doing music since the 80s, and I took, just kind of evolved, took a break, and decided to get back into music, and I've been enjoying the last 5 years. It's just been really a good thing for me, and it seems very creative. Everything's in slow motion, and I've just enjoyed writing new music.
And that new music's been doing pretty well for you. I mean, you've put out, I think we said 7 music videos in the last 5 years, 2 full-length albums, a handful of singles.
I want to say the last video we released would be our 9th.
9th. Oh man.
9th video.
I can't count.
It's okay.
So tell us a little bit about. Well, let's go back 40 years to high school. You started playing with a bunch of friends thereabouts. And yeah. What were your inspirations to get there, and what said, "Hey, I need to be a rock star"?
Well, how it started, especially with my generation, just being a young kid, basically forced to listen to whatever the grandparents or parents had on. And just doing my own thing. But, you had Elvis constantly in the background. You had the old record players. And I can remember being a kid seeing Elvis in the jumpsuits. And he was almost like a superhero. At that point, I had no aspirations of playing music, singing, or anything like that. But, I did... even as a small kid, I was an attention seeker. I like to make people laugh. And, that's basically how it started. I loved attention. So if you fast forward as time went on, as I got into my teens, your Van Halen, into your hair band, and the 80s came around. And at that point, Van Halen really caught my attention. And I was like, man, that's something I could see myself doing. But the crazy thing is, most people would not know this. My aspiration was not to be a David Lee Roth or a front man. I wanted to play guitar. So I bought a guitar and I started learning chords. Not very good at it. Skinny guy in high school, long hair. And there was this guy would cross in the halls a lot, had long hair, and he looked like a rock and roll guy. And we were both, we ended up being in this thing called Key Club, where we would help with maybe like handicapped kids, or help raise money, just do a lot of different things for the community. And I met him in the Key Club, and then next thing you know, we were doing functions and got to talk to him. And next thing I know, he's like, yeah, man, I love Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, and I play guitar. And I was like, well, I got a guitar, and I just started playing. He's like, man, we ought to hang out sometime. So basically, not to get long-winded, but I had drove over to his house. And when I walked in that door and I heard him playing guitar, it was phenomenal, especially at his age. And I knew right then, I mean, I couldn't play guitar like that. So he said, man, I've kind of got a band going. You ought to sing. You got a good look. I was like, I don't sing. And he says, practice. So from that point on, Anthony and I mean, we became best friends, constantly working on music, hanging out, just doing what friends do. And it basically developed into just, we never did cover music. So we were constantly trying to create our own thing. And at the time, it wasn't very good, honestly, looking back. But the thing about Anthony and I, we were very tenacious. And sometimes that did cause a problem as time went on because we were so serious. And a lot of times the band members, as we were going along, maybe they were getting ready to get married or a job, or they're doing this or that. They maybe couldn't put as much time in. And we would always tell them, hey, you know, we're trying to do something special here. We got to put in the time, got to put in the effort. And a lot of times, eventually, we might have to, you know, replace them or whatever. But, you know, as far as I can remember, there was never any hard feelings. We would always talk to whoever it was and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And the great thing is the musicians that we played with, I've made some great friends playing music, whether it's musicians through recording or people, fans, just people that love music. The greatest thing about doing this is the people I've met. And it's been an awesome experience.
I can say the same. I mean, like I said, we've known each other 37 years out of those years, and watch you progress through the years. So the first band I remember is WhiteRay, and that was almost a glam metal band that moved into a direction which some people I think remember saying they sounded like GNR near the end of the WhiteRay era.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, is what I remember hearing people then commenting around me, which I can see that. I don't think your voice was at that point that much that raspier than Axel at the time, but I could see the comparisons with Tony's playing, with Slash being meticulous and everything. I mean, yeah, everybody says so this about them and this about whoever, but like I said, that was what I was hearing when I was. Everybody's like, "Oh, I like that WhiteRay man here." I mean, it was all local because I mean, y'all were just finally getting to outside the Louisville metropolitan area and slowly making a Midwest name for yourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, y'all were playing some of the small mini festivals. You were going and playing some of the clubs and getting out there and making it. This was what some people would call a heavenly metal band at the time, or a Christian heavy metal band per se. And then we move into the 90s. In the early 90s, you were being courted by labels here, labels there. And everybody, what I remember me and you talking privately, that all these labels wanted you to change your lyrics, change your sound, your image. What was your thoughts? I mean, there you had people telling you to change all this, but you wanted to be authentic to yourselves at the same time with the two of you as you went through these changes, right?
Yes. At that point, we're in our early 20s, and we had a couple record labels reach out, and the first one didn't work out, and but we had a label reach out to us, and at the time it was an up and coming label that was really putting out good product, and so we met them in Nashville, and basically they said they liked what we were doing. They would like to see a few changes, you know, just trying to, I guess, groom us. And at that point, they said, you know, ask us what we thought about it and, you know, put a few things. We hadn't actually signed a contract, but they said our only stipulation is you change the name. We do not like the name, and I wasn't against that at all. And we had a song called "Killed by Cain," and I hadn't discussed it with the guys, but I just kind of threw it out there. I was like, well, we have a song, and it might make a good name. And I said "Killed by Cain," and they were like, "Stop the boat, we love it." And, you know, after that, I think we basically went into like a pre-production, started getting the songs ready, and then we recorded the album in Brentwood, Tennessee, and mixed it in Nashville.
At that time, the least metal city there was.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we did the tracks at a place called the Salt Mine in Brentwood. It was I would call it a mansion. But in the basement, if you wanted to call it a basement, it was so huge. They had this unbelievable studio at the time. So it was a good experience as far as doing that. If we could do it over again, I definitely would change a lot of things about that.
There was a lot of anger in that album that came out of that.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that album is, and I'm not scared to share this. You know, at my age, we don't need to talk about how old I am.
That's what I said in one of the posts. I was like, nobody needs to know how old we are. That's why I didn't want to mention how long we've known each other.
I stopped aging at 30.
But I wish I could say that.
if I could tell, you know, my 20-year-old self and myself now are not the same person. So even lyrically, there's one song for sure, but there's a few lyrics in a few other songs that if I was to record them now, one song I wouldn't even record because I don't think that way at all. And then a few of the lyrics, I'm like, that's not right. That's not how I feel about these things nowadays. I would change things. And, you know, but that's just part of growing up. Through mistakes comes wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good album, but like I said, there was a lot of anger, I don't remember. Well, I mean, there was a lot of misinterpretation because I mean, once you signed, a lot of people didn't know how to classify you. And then they started finally classifying you into the modern '90s metal scene because more bands were starting to show up that were impressionable on people. I mean, you had Pantera, you had Corrosion of Conformity. A lot of those type bands had that similar sound that we saw, and so it helped open up a little more windows there with that sound. But at the time, the Christian scene didn't know what to think of you. Honestly, I think they were confused because I mean, you're on Rex Records, which was a label that was really pushing the envelope with different bands. You had Believer, you had Velopede, you had Triton, all these different metal genres, and you all were completely different than all those. So they didn't know. This was before. I mean, you weren't industrial like Circle of Dust, so they didn't know where to put you and who to push you towards. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think what happened also is the A&R part of it. They wanted us to be something that we were not, and we were actually in the middle of a transition, meaning if we would have did this album a year later, it would have went over much better because our sound changed dramatically just within a year. But what happened was the A&R guy says, hey, we want you to look like this. We want you to sound like this. And it wasn't us.
Well, that's what I was getting at earlier is that there was the labels that people say, oh, the labels give you freedom. No. Not even a Christian label that doesn't have 2 cents to their name, so to speak, sitting here trying to tell a band, oh, we want you to look like this because you'll sell 1 million records. You know, the old Johnny Cash thing where he's like, or not Johnny Cash, who was it? Carl Perkins back in the 50s. You do this, we'll help you sell 1 million records, make you a millionaire. You know, it wasn't going to happen in the Christian scene, even though they had the contact outside the scene. Like you just said, the A&R didn't know where to push you. You know, they didn't know where to push you in the secular market. They for sure didn't know where to push you in the Christian scene. So you all got lost in a lot of shuffles there.
Yeah, it was a real bad time. Definitely, it was not. It didn't turn out the way that we wanted. They used a. It's kind of like this. If you know, for as much recording that we had already done before we went in there, we got an engineer that was very new, and didn't have a lot of hours behind him. And I just don't think we had a great team around us to get the sound. But there again, we hadn't settled into a sound. So if you use all three avenues that made the album, it was a recipe for disaster. It really was. And Anthony and I, after the album came out, instead of hanging our heads, we were actually just wanting to go back to the drawing board and come out. We were already writing new songs that were so much better than those. And we're like, okay, we're going to make up for this. But then we just started having issues with, went out on the road, and we're doing these shows to where we would play in front of a few thousand people, a couple hundred people, 20 people, 10 people. And sometimes we wouldn't get paid. Sometimes we wouldn't get all our money. We would get things showing how many units of music we were moving, but yet we weren't getting any money. And it was just frustrating. And about that time is when I needed a break from music, and I disappeared for quite a long time.
Yeah. No, you did your solo album, and then right after all that, because it was, I think you were trying to use that as being a lethargic change, because it was a complete change completely from previously for you. You know, I mean, you could hear the voice that you've always had. Well, can't say the same voice you had in Killed by Cain, because that was a totally different voice. But you can go back to the WhiteRay era, and you could hear the same voice, but you did it where it wasn't metal, it really wasn't rock, it wasn't CCM, it wasn't light. It was light rock, but it wasn't. But it was a retrospective of what you're going through, in my opinion, at the time.
It was a very somber album.
Yeah,
this was the only time ever that I've ever did music without Anthony, and it was just stuff I wrote. I wrote everything on a flat top guitar, and after I wrote several songs, I was like, these are pretty good. And then what I did was I surrounded myself by studio musicians, and they took these basic songs and we basically charted it, changed the keys to fit my voice, and it turned out, I thought it turned out really well.
For that time period, it was a really good independent album. You know, we didn't have, you know, I'm the lucky one that has one of those that somebody had to get me to give a copy of, because it disappeared.
I think I still have a few copies. I maybe have 10 copies. I think I had 1,000 ran off.
That's a lot back then.
Yes, it was. And that stuff was expensive back then. But yeah, after that, I call it life happened. And I got sidetracked. And honestly, I can look back on a lot of things, but that was the best thing I ever did, was take that break.
Yeah. I completely understand that. I mean, people joke. I joke and will tell people all the time. They're like, "Why do you go to like Louder in Life and all that?" I'm like, "Life happened. You know, we had 5 kids. I didn't get to go to all the shows I wanted to go to. I'd love to go to a lot more shows, but they came first. You know."
Oh, absolutely.
So moving from that, so you disappeared. We figured 20 years, 22 years, 23 years, something like that.
We'll keep it at 20.
Keep it at 20. So we won't discuss your private life there, but that's a good long while to decide. Hey, and then you and Tony all of a sudden show back up, and we're ready to completely different even style than what you left at, where it was almost a modern. I can't modern. The first songs I heard coming out were more Alice in Chains, 90s, not say grunge, but 90s alt rock more or less with a modern sound. And then it slowly transitioned to this now bluesy rock sound. So we're coming back. There's a name change, a completely change in direction, so to speak. I mean, it wasn't an overtly Christian. There were some the first couple songs we heard, there were some Christian themes, but it wasn't. It's like, hey, we're not the band we were 20 years ago. We're 2 guys out here putting out music that we both love. We're taking our time. We're not being forced by record labels. We're not being forced by anybody's hand but our own. You know, there was some stuff that showed up, some reissues, and that piqued the interest of the old bands. But then, like I said, what made that transition? It's like, hey, we're not those guys we were 20 years ago. Was it just old age and temperament?
Are we talking about the sound?
All of it. The sound, the lyrics, the everything going into Moonshine Zombies.
Well, so what happened? Anthony and I haven't always been bound just by music. So we remained friends for over 20 years, you know, on that break. And he's always been so creative with everything he does. So when he puts his mind to something, it's going to happen. So he bought a state-of-the-art studio. It's unbelievable. So he calls me up. Hey, I've got all this stuff. I'm working out the kinks. Come over here. Let's see what let's help me out. No aspirations of doing anything again at that point. So I come over and we start working on 1 song, 2 songs. And man, they're pretty good. And the thing is, unlike 20 years before, everything that he's bringing to me, the best way to describe it, everything's in slow motion. He's giving me stuff and I'm digesting it and I'm having fun and I'm extremely creative, even more than before. And I'm excited about it. So I'm spending way more time on the melodies, the lyrics, the hooks. And I think you had brought up some of the lyrics were reminiscent of some early stuff, some of it. That's because a few of those songs were songs that if REX would have waited and let us put out a new album, there was a couple on there that would have been on that album. I guess it's I'm Alive. That was one of those songs. But nevertheless, the name changed. So when we first started writing the songs, and I mean, we're like, okay, let's do something with this. So why not Killed by Cain? Well, then we decided we both agreed, it's not me, we don't want to have anything to do we don't want to be associated with that. We don't want to put ourselves in a box because we don't sound like that anyway. It's going to
that's my point. That was my point.
And it will confuse people. And, you know, I think originally we came up with the name Kentucky Hillbilly Revival. And Anthony, you know, before we're going to start marketing, he's like, I don't like the name. Let's find something else. So we just start going back and forth and back and forth. And we come up with this Moonshine Zombies, which basically embraces, you know, our Southern roots with moonshine, and zombies is just being part of the system. That's basically what that is. Just part of the system. And we basically put that together, and that's what you get.
I've had a lot when I wear my shirts out. People love it. They just like the gimmick idea behind it because when you are you a Walking Dead fan at all?
Oh, absolutely.
You know they were created in Kentucky.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so outside Lexington. So tell me if that ain't ironic with the moonshine and the zombies there.
Absolutely.
So, but anyways, yeah, when I wear out one of the original shirts, it's got a skull on it. We went to a couple Comic Cons, horror cons, and people are like, "Oh, that's cool." And so I get the chance to turn them on to the music.
Absolutely.
But so that's an interesting. I mean, like I said, it does fit up to Kentucky, but still, you know, like I said in a post earlier, bourbon's the drink in Kentucky, not moonshine. We're not in West Virginia.
Right. Well, we played on that too because the moonshine could be the drink. It could also just be the moonshine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was kind of dual purpose. But,
right.
But
anyways, the lyrical change there, we were going into that. So
the lyrical change was more of, okay, so in the early years, I think a lot of times we were very serious about what we did. But the thing was, I think we were trying to be not true to ourselves as far as like just accepting where we're from, our roots. So once we decided to do that with Moonshine Zombies, I think people bought into it. It was more of something people could look at and see that it's genuine. Meaning, we're from Kentucky. You got the bourbon, you've got moonshine, you've got it's the Bible Belt. So basically what we tried to do is Moonshine Zombie basically embraced the person, the blue collar man or woman that goes to work all week long, works hard. Okay? And on the weekend they have them one or several ice cold beverages. And then they go to church on Sunday and they repeat the process. Now, that was my thinking at the time. It might be a little bit different now, but that's what we were about. So what we did was, when you listen to our lyrics from the first album to what we're putting out now, it constantly changed. So the first album, we kind of dipped into that a little bit, but not a lot. We still had a little bit of metal in us, but it was rooted with blues. So what happened, Anthony and I have continued to do this, and we're going to keep doing it. So when it was time to do a second album, and the last album we did, we switched to singles. I sat down with him and I was like, look, let's do something different. Let's take the distortion out. Let's make the songs go down a notch, make them more melodic, change the lyrics, the content to be more about where we're from. And he's like, okay. So he starts giving me music where he's using the Fender Stratocaster. It's not fully distorted. We're just reinventing ourselves. And by him reinventing the music, that in turn, I reinvented the lyrics. So it complemented each other. The second album, honestly, it's about consuming a lot of beer, women, moonshine, and just having a good time. You know, blue
music.
collar. Yeah, blue. But there again, blue collar.
Right.
And at the time, I don't know it at the time. I'm still holding on to my roots. But at the time, I didn't know it. But they were still sprinkled in there a little bit. So that album was purposely had that theme of the blue collar working man.
All right. I mean, you're going back to sprinkling of your past. I've always heard that's if you're a true writer and you're writing your own music, that's what you find something you've lived and stretch and move and write upon that, but it might not be your true self. It'll be part of yourself, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
You know, you write from where your heart is, you know, regardless. You know, I mean, the best songwriters. I follow a bunch of different songwriting groups, and I'm like, I'm interested in how you take a person like yourself, that's you and Tony writing the music and the song and the lyrics, or there's a group writing the hit songs. Nothing against you all, that are a group of 5 guys or women, a group of people in a circle, and I'm like, how does that equate to a person that's letting out their heart and soul? And I think I've always enjoyed that music more than someone that's. I mean, when you now have that many people writing a song, it's kind of hard to feel that a little more. Whereas if you're writing a songwriter, or even in the past, even if somebody wrote a song for somebody, it still was a single songwriter typically.
Right.
You know, you had your Liebenströller back in the 50s that wrote hits for everybody. You have Dionne Warren that writes a ton of hits for everybody in the last 30 years. But she's a single songwriter. You know, Jim Steinman, single songwriter, but Meatloaf took his songs and made them exquisite, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, and still and brought those songs to life. So but as a person like yourself, and knowing you as long as I've had, I mean, I do see those sprinkles of either faith or life hitting in those songs, and that's what makes a song, in my opinion. You know, you're the storyteller for that song, even if it's stretched a story that you've lived. You know, we were talking about a song earlier, "Charades Beyond the Glass" from back in the day. You know, we've seen if you've listened to those lyrics, you can picture that story.
Yeah, that's what's going on. What's crazy is that song depicts what's going on right now in society.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We're looking through broken glass, but we're still seeing the differences between us all. You know, and what's it said.
Absolutely.
So Moonshine Zombies has been going for just shy of 10 years now. Again, what's the future hold for you and Anthony's music? I mean, I know it's just you two left out of a handful of other people that came through the process. I mean, you at one point had Matt Tall, who played with the first couple of days of the new albums, Tantric, and so on, playing on some of the singles there for a while. Now it's back to you two, just you two as the core, writing and doing all this. So where's that go from now, from today till whenever that you see the future?
Well, after we did the Meeting at the Crossroads album, which was the second album, we decided we were just going to start doing some more into content and video, something we hadn't done. So we shot our first video and really enjoyed I think that's the thing about Anthony and I, we enjoy the process of videos, just like writing. And to be honest with you, I wasn't excited to shoot the first video. It's unfamiliar, and I don't like when I'm out of my comfort zone. But nevertheless, we did decide to do one and loved the process. So from that point on, we decided, okay, we're not going to do albums. We're just going to do singles. So at that point, honestly, I guess like I said, we've done 9 singles. Okay. And we love the process of working with a
videographer.
Yeah, thank you. Working with him, the direction, taking the direction of him, let him do what he does, and we're going to do what we do, and just trust the process. And we're getting ready to shoot another one, and the acting gets done next week, and then Anthony and I will shoot our parts in August. And that will be the first single of the new album that will be coming out.
Awesome. I mean, it just amazes me. I mean, like I said, that's the unfortunate, but it's at the same way fortunate of the new way of sharing music. You know, you're still doing, they said video killed the radio star. Well, it's kind of right, but it's also, because bands have to either put out the singles. They can't put out a full album typically anymore.
It takes too long.
It takes too long. It's costly. And people's attention span doesn't last for a full album. Where we could go back and listen to the albums from even the 90s up until through the 90s. You could get a full album and have a good album.
Absolutely.
Whereas you moved into the 2000s and we started losing that somehow we lost that. And then now with the digital world taking over everything and there's no physical media for the most part, even we was talking about vinyl before, unless you're a true audio head or whatever they want to call it, audio file or whatever, like I do CDs, some people do vinyl, the physical media person is few and far between because of that.
Yes.
So you have to push those singles and find ways to get those shared and shown and all that. So I mean, it's hard on everybody. You're all. And as an independent artist, it's costly for sure because you have to provide. Thank God Anthony's got the studio. That helps 1,000%. But still, if you want something pressed out, put out, if you want to really put out into the universe without doing it yourselves, you have to pay for A&R. You have to pay for a publisher to push it out to wherever. And who's got that kind? Money is tight for everybody right now. So
we relied on most of our videos. We were selling T-shirts, CDs, beer mugs, different things that would basically pay for the videos. So basically anything that we would bring in, we would just use it to fund the videos. And it's worked out pretty good. So basically that's the way we've been looking at it. The money we make, we just put right back into the product.
Right, and that's commendable too, because I know a few other bands that have done that. When they do a show, they'll do a show for free, but merchandise, whatever they get, that's the way they make their money. Everybody goes back into the band fund just to keep equipment up. You got amps, get the speakers, the sound equipment, whatever. It gets costly.
So, anything in music's expensive.
So you're talking about this new album. Is there a time frame for that?
Well, what happened was, as we're shooting videos, we're still writing. And like I said, we decided not to do any more albums after the second one. But what happens is, as we're doing singles, we're writing other songs. So what happened when this new album comes out, it's basically songs that we've been writing while we're doing singles. So it's not like we wrote a single, stopped, and then put it out. stopped. We just kept going. Anthony, and I always told him, he just kept writing. I was like, just keep it coming, because at some point maybe we'll hit have writer's block, and then we'll be prepared because we'll be so far ahead of ourselves. So that's basically what happened. So we've got enough to put, I think we're doing a vinyl album, and it's going to be released early fall.
Early fall.
So we're basically just about finished with it. The recording itself is done. So
and I've noticed him release on the YouTube channel and sometimes on his personal page. I hardly ever see it on the actual other social media, but he'll have snippets of 2 or 3 minute long solos or instrumentals that he's doing, which were pretty sweet. If anybody hasn't heard those, sure to go back and look at those as well, because Anthony is, in my opinion, very underrated. Like John said earlier, he's super talented, and he's retired, so he has time to do all that.
Oh, the thing about also when we did when we started, especially on the second album and then through the singles, we purposely dumbed the songs down, meaning he can play way better than what you're hearing, but that doesn't make a good song.
No.
And I can still probably hit some notes that I used to and do this and do that, but nobody wants to hear that. So what I do is I stay within the means of what I'm good at and write lyrics that are relatable to, like, there again, just go back to that normal blue collar guy. So we purposely make songs to fit what we're trying to do instead of making my vocals shine or his guitar shine. We don't care about that. We just care about writing a good song that's catchy. That's it.
Right. It's a good hook written, almost classic rock sound or southern rock, like you said earlier. I'm thinking that southern sound. But you're still not Styx. So you're talking about Blue Collar Man. You're still not Styx. Just a young, totally different sound.
But yeah, we've been the new album is even more laid back than the singles you've heard. We purpose this album is very cohesive.
So it sounds like an album.
Yes, each song they all kind of tie in with one theme.
Cool. So we've talked off camera. You've got some other stuff you're wanting to do. So how does that transition from what the band is doing?
Well, Anthony's kept me so busy, and like I said, we've got a new album coming out, and we've got 2 singles within 6 months that will come out, and the album, by the way, is called Kentucky Homegrown.
Okay.
And it's about Anthony and I. That's where we're from, and the lyrics epitomize what Kentucky's about. So it's a fun song. So yeah, as far as music, I've kind of had some things go on in my personal life that have kind of grabbed a hold of me and got me going in a different direction. And it's like everything's went full circle. But the difference is this guy has wisdom and the teenager did not. So, I don't, as far as Moonshine Zombies, we're not going to label our music, but I've had a life-changing experience. I recently rededicated my life to Jesus Christ and was baptized. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done. So I got my start, honestly, in gospel music when Anthony and I met. And now here I am years later, and it's came full circle. And I don't know musically what's going to happen. But here's the thing, like you brought up earlier, because of these life changes, I would think the lyrical content possibly will change. Visuals in videos and things might change. But the great thing about that is it's the most important thing to me. But also, if you go back and you listen to the catalog that Anthony and I have continually put out, it constantly changes. So it fits right in to where I'm at. And it will, I don't know how people are going to feel about maybe the future of what we're doing, but nothing's changed. It's still him and I. And, but we're constantly trying to reinvent ourselves. So we're not scared to change a little bit. And I think it's a good thing, just to put out the same thing time and time again. I mean, Anthony always says this, we play music for us and hope people like it. And I think that's what happened with Killed by Cain. We were putting out music and people were telling us how we should sound and how we should do it. And that's why it didn't go over well. It wasn't genuine. The stuff we're doing now is genuine.
Okay. So, I mean, I've watched that progression. I've seen, like I said, I've known you for a long time. I've seen you go through your ups and downs, which we all do. We've all had, hopefully, we all have life changing things that really hopefully hit us on the top of the head. It's like, hey, dummy, you need to fix this. Oh, somebody's hungry. Or wanting attention.
Yeah, man eater.
Anyways, so you've went through all these changes. Now you're going through. If you can look closely at him on the camera here, he does have a brace on, so that's a life altering situation. A lot of people being off work for 7 months.
Yeah, something like that since March.
It'll be about a year. You said about 9 months when we go back to work. It's like, man.
Yeah.
So I've been there, done that around my household as well. Well, not myself, but in my household. So you, now that you're off work, your day job, or has that helped you pick up the pen a little more and write some more for yourself?
Yes.
It's like journaling,
yes.
Song lyrics come together quicker, or make you have better peace of mind, or anything like that?
So I told myself, because we just finished this and wrapped it up pretty much, I'm like, I'm taking a break. I'm not going to do any writing, anything, but I'm starting to get these ideas. So I am doing some writing. But this thing of my retirement probably coming up is, I think Anthony and I will reinvent ourselves and potentially do some different things than just recording. So I can't promise we'll perform. And even if we did, it would be extremely limited. But, we do constantly like to reinvent ourselves and try different things. So it is very possible.
So if you had to go back and look, I mean, we were talking about the influences of Van Halen and stuff in the early days. What brought this blues sound out? Because we haven't touched on that, but we've talked about the blues sound that came along with the Moonshine Zombies. Where did that come from? It just age, or because that was just, I mean, that came out of the blue when with the first stuff that we were hearing. And even off that first album, there wasn't, as like you said, there was more metal or hard rock in that, and now we're almost strictly a bluesy Southern rock sound.
That was done by design, because every project we do, we sit down. What are we trying to do? Some bands may say, "Oh, it just happened. It accidentally happened," and I mean, we've done that too. But we purposely tried to strip the sound down and not have anything shine but the song. And I think a lot of times the only way you can do that as a rock band is to tone those instruments down and focus more on the hook, the line, the vocals of the song, and just make it catchy. And I mean, that's what we did. And by doing that blues sound just kind of manifested itself.
Next, I mean that was, I mean, it wasn't out of left field, and I got that. It's just like I say, going from the first album to the second album, you could tell there was that little. It was a dynamic shift, but it wasn't an overbearing shift. You could tell it was coming. Like I said before, it reminded me of the when Alice in Chains did their acoustic album, MTV acoustic album. You'd seen some of that with Jerry Cantrell's playing and Lane's vocals, so to speak, and that's where I seen that change with you coming. If that makes any sense. That's what I see anyway as a fan.
Well, and also on the first album, if you go back, I still threw some grit in there. I was still doing some of the old stuff where I was using the lower register a lot, but I would still hoot and holler a little bit at times, which is old me,
right?
And in this newer stuff from the second album, not so much. And that is just reinventing yourself. That's all I did. I purposely didn't do that.
Well, I mean, I don't think you needed to scream,
Right.
I mean, with this stuff, you don't need to scream. You don't need to, like you just said, you don't need to overbear the vocals over anything. You all got it balanced out between you, especially you and Anthony. I mean, and all the other instruments, but especially between a guitar and a vocalist, you're both about equal in the song, and that's one thing I've enjoyed about the music myself. Because I mean, I like a loud guitar, I like a loud scream on occasion, but it's every once in a while you need something that's not your norm, that's not, it's radio friendly, and it's not on the radio, which is a shame, but not the same 500 songs you hear on the radio,
Absolutely.
You don't always want to hear a Van Halen song or a Led Zeppelin, or then go to, I mean, you like the old classic country of Waylon and Johnny and John and all them. You want to find somewhere in the middle. You want to find something. If you like that stuff, to me, that's where you guys are at, right there, just enough there in the middle that more people need to hear it. And that's one thing I love about when I can share your music with my people. Or like I said, just wearing a shirt. What's that? Or I like your shirt. And then you get to tell them, hey, check out this band from Kentucky. I mean, especially because most of the places I go are here in Kentucky too. So I get to say, hey, here's a Kentucky-born band that I think you'll dig. Because, like I said, I think more people, if we can get your all's name out there, I think more people, and especially, I mean, it'd be nice if y'all were playing. But I get it. Life has those things out there. So, but just to get your music out there is the only way you get it out there is word of mouth, and that's
it's challenging to work with other people that are on the same page, and it's also challenging at times because Anthony and I do all the writing. Sometimes it's hard to work with people that don't want to do more. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we have a formula that has worked for us, and it doesn't always translate with other people.
Right. I mean, that's a given. I mean, that's why. I mean, a lot of bands have their core members, and then they'll have hired guns come in and play or something because it's your music. You want it your way. I mean, and I think you two have settled in. You've settled in, but like you just said, you want to change. But I think you've settled into finally a groove where you don't, like you said earlier, don't feel the pressures of a record label. Don't feel the pressures of what the fans really want.
Yes.
You don't have to worry you want the fans to love you, but at the same time, you want to be expressive in your own way. You know, so
it's been interesting. I will say that from comments or messages I get from people. Some are great, and some, wow.
Some are like, bring back Killed by Cain.
But yeah, but overall, I enjoy what we do.
And I've noticed that. I mean, I've been involved with three of the 9 video shoots, and we've always had fun. We've always seen the camaraderie between the two of you, even with the stresses of a video shoot, because people don't realize how stressful that can be until you're actually there.
It's crazy, but we enjoy the process, and then what ends up, we're just trusting you. We shoot with JB Lawrence just about every time, and I mean, he does a great job, and we just trust him to put it together, and he's done a great job.
Time. And he's always been, like I said, pleasant to work with. He's not sitting there yelling and screaming at you. He's like, if you mess up, he'll let you know, and we'll reshoot it. But he's not mad at you. I mean, I took a tumble this last round that everybody was like making sure I was okay, and
somebody has that video somewhere, and I never got to see it.
I never did either. I'm kind of glad, but because that was a little bit embarrassing, but life happens.
Well, I didn't see it, so you're good.
I felt it for a couple of days because it hit my knee, and I've got 2 bad knees. So I don't know if you're willing to. I mean, it's up to you. We don't have to, but you talk about these life changes that made change your perspective again. Do you mind sharing a little bit? You don't have to.
I mean, basically what has happened, I mean, anybody that has a heartbeat realizes that the world is not a good place right now. And it's especially the United States, we're extremely divided. And I think through my lens, what I'm seeing is the divide on one side is so bad. And I just start seeing things for what they were, which is it's a spiritual warfare. And I still, when all this stuff's been going on for, I don't know, seems like the last 6 or 7 years, it's really amped up. I'm still doing my own thing. I realize that what's going on is not good. It's not of God, but I'm doing my own thing. I got it. I don't need God in my life. I'm good, and then my wife starts going to church, and then I reluctantly go to church with her. That's my wife. And we're going every Sunday, and eventually get to know some of the people there, and nice people. And I'm still not buying into it. I'm going through the motions. And we had some. I can't go. I don't feel comfortable about going into the details, but we had life changing.
Go where you need to. You can go around it. You don't have to be full blown. I'm just asking what got you there. The basics.
We had a life changing experience, and sometimes the way the Lord gets you, you got to be at your lowest, where you don't have a choice. And that's what happened. And basically at that point, just hit my knees and just told him I couldn't do it on my own. And then my wife and I, at the time, we decided to try to find our own church. And we walked into this church. We found a church to go to. And right out of the gate, we found our home. And we both serve at church and love it. And I've got my eyes on the music. I want to be part of the praise and worship potentially if it presents itself. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Basically, he got my attention. by putting me in a position to where I had to talk to him. I've been running. I mean, he never left me. I've been just kind of doing my own thing and just ignoring him. And finally, he got my attention. And it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And, I mean, we're just going to see what happens from here.
All right. I mean, I completely respect you about where you were there, because I mean, believe me, I've seen rock bottom, especially in the last few years, and it's been hard. And people ask me how I get through it, and I say faith and prayer every day. It's hard. It's a chore. Don't want to look at it as a chore, but it's a chore to keep your head up above water. And so I can sympathize, and like I said, I respect. I just wanted to see where your perspective was, because like I said, you were for a while there, like you said, you were looking with your spiritual eye, but it wasn't fully open.
It was still there. That's basically.
Like I said, and like I said, you knew about the faith, you knew what it was, but then life, like we've talked about before, like earlier, life happened. We go our ways, and the world pulls us one way, work pulls us another, life pulls us another. Well, they all need to be brought together, and the only way to bring them together is through that relationship.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, life-changing experience, and I wouldn't change it. You have peaks and valleys, and I wouldn't change the valley for nothing, because that's got me to where I'm at now.
Right.
So if that's what it takes to get my attention, and it worked.
Yeah, for sure. Well, John, we're going to cut it out tonight, but I appreciate you stopping in and visiting with me.
I appreciate you having me on, Mike. It's been fun.
I appreciate it. I hope everything keeps going forward with Moonshine. I'll be sharing as always. Maybe I'll work in another video down the line. You never know. Never know what ideas JB will have, and it's like, oh, we need 15 people to do this tonight or today.
Mike, we'll get you in another one for sure.
So, well, John, tell everybody where they can find the Moonshine Zombies going forward, and we'll close up this evening.
Instagram, Moonshine Zombie Nation. Of course, get on our YouTube channel. That's where we put out most and all of our content is on YouTube, Moonshine Zombies. And definitely hit like and subscribe.
All right. Well, you can find Radio Oz with Metal Mike on YouTube as well. Also, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and with Spotify playlists, with the newest one coming hopefully soon. I've been working on it. It's just taking a little longer than I wanted to. Well, John, it was a pleasure as always. We'll be catching up soon. Have a great evening. And John, stick online and we'll talk for a few more minutes and we'll get off here for the night. Thanks again, my brother.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.